Today's podcast is sponsored by the Association of Mature American Citizens. Guys, this is the fastest growing conservative 50-plus organization in America. Join today at amac.us/Carter. That's amac.us/Carter. Let's talk about failed states. And let's talk about uprisings. And let's talk about what happens when mothers, daughters, sisters, are basically targeted, right? Or feel that their children are being threatened, right? We see. I'm going to just go out on a limb here. I was talking to my producers about this before, but my experience in Afghanistan, my experience living in the Middle East as a child in Saudi Arabia, seeing what's happening here in the United States. I'm going to give you an example, a big one, Loudoun County, Virginia. Right? Fairfax County, Virginia. Everything Virginia right now. Everyone's looking at Virginia. Why? Because for the first time in such a strange wake-up call, right? Even independents and Democrats, some of them living in those communities are like, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on here? There's this radical left. And they're telling me, Terry McAuliffe, telling me that I have to have my hands off of my child's education and what? Let some wacko teachers that have some crazy ideologies raise my children? Because our kids are there for 8 hours a day, guys. I mean, really. You want to talk about indoctrination, it would happen there. But mothers, and fathers too, but mothers got angry. They were like, don't you tell me how to raise my kid. And I'm going to tell you why mothers are so important to a society. I mean, truly, if you don't think about this, if you haven't thought about this before, think about it now. I never saw anything in my life quite as sad as traveling to a country where women are belittled and where children are sidelined, where education is not primary, where a loss of medical facilities and assistance and help for women is pretty much gone. Let me tell you, there was nothing like that. Then seeing that, like in Afghanistan and other parts of the world, it is a very, very tough situation. We're going to talk about that and so much more about crazy Jen Psaki. By the way, let's bring the border into this, because this is insanity. We're going to be paying over or close to $500,000 the Biden administration wants to pay for separated families when they're the ones that are supporting the separation. Let's talk about what happens to women and children there. And let's talk about the fact that our own government is basically part of the smuggling process. And then they want to spit in your face, the American people, and say, oh yeah, you guys did everything the right way. Guess what? We're not going to help you. We're going to help the people that break the law. How does that make you feel? How does it make you feel when you think of all of those tens of millions of dollars being pocketed by people who break the law for some political statement, some political purpose? I actually think it's much bigger than that. I actually do believe it's much bigger than that. Guys, you got to follow and subscribe. We got a whole new website. It looks amazing. Go to SaraACarter.com. That's SaraACarter.com. While you are there, please sign up for my email list and download the podcast today. Leave your reviews. Let me know what you're thinking. It's just that important. We read through all of them. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to our producers. And we find great show ideas. You guys are the reason we're here. So we want to talk about what you want to talk about. I think that's what's important. And when you sign up for that email list, remember, you will not get shadow banned. You don't want to be shadow banned. So sign up for the email list at SaraACarter.com, and I'll make sure that you get the latest and the greatest, not only from me, but from others who we're reading out there and others who we sponsor and support, and we'll get you that directly to your inbox. By the way, you can get all the great discounts at all my pillow products. You know, I love Mike Lindell and I talk about him all the time. Great American, great guy, and great products. If you go to mypillow.com right now and click on the radio listener special, you'll get deep discounts on all my pillow, mattress toppers, towels, and so much more, guys. They have slippers, dog beds, and even high quality weight blankets. I mean, who could ask for more? Christmas is around the corner. You can just order it straight from your laptop, directly delivered to your family and your friends, right? For example, Mike is offering a buy one, get one free offer on all the Giza Dream Sheets. I love them. They're soft, they're comfortable, they're beautiful. And not only that, all my pillow products come with a, listen to this, 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. All My Pillow products are 100% made in the USA. Go to mypillow.com and click on the radio listener specials for the buy one, get one free offer on the Giza Dream Sheets. Enter promo code Carter, that's CARTER, or call 1-800-685-7221 for great My Pillow specials. That's 1-800-685-7221, and be sure to use the code Carter at checkout. Let's start with what happened in Afghanistan. I'm going to just start with that because I think that was a little bit shocking. It is on our website. That's SaraCarter.com. It's the Taliban killed 2 people at a wedding and injured 10 in Afghanistan because of the music that they were playing. I want you to think about that. And the reason that stuck with me is because, and I know I've told you all this story before, but for those of you that didn't hear it or maybe don't remember it, I have very good friends in Afghanistan. One who was my interpreter, who is here now, and his brother who is there, who is still there, unfortunately, with his family, and I'm desperately hoping that we can get him out. He was my driver for quite a long time, and every trip that I took there, he would drive. And I knew that he loved Shakira, so I got him this Shakira CD on one trip that I went to Afghanistan, and he was so excited. I got him the CD. He put it in his, in his car. Early one morning when he came to pick me up, he was playing this music. We were in Kabul. It was probably about 7:30 a.m. Kabul time, and next to us in a van was a group, unbeknownst to us at that moment, was a group of men that appeared to be Taliban, and they were. I say appeared because it's hard to gauge, sometimes. And they were right next to us and they started screaming. And by the way, my driver, he and my friend, he was just dancing away, hands in the air, shaking his body, having a great time, loving the CD. I think it was Hips Don't Lie. You can imagine Hips Don't Lie with an imam next to you, right? In a car, in a vehicle, in a country like Afghanistan. Now, mind you, of course, at this time, the Taliban was not in power, but they were still coming into Kabul for negotiations with the government. And they still had a lot of power. They resonated a lot of power. And even if they didn't do that politically openly, they did it subversively through a shadow government. And so it was pretty terrifying. They were yelling. He stopped the music. Thankfully, I was sitting in the back seat of the car with my head down. I was not dancing or moving around. So that was another good thing. And I just ignored them and let the men settle the issue without opening my mouth. Because as a woman in Afghanistan, and particularly with the Taliban, you have absolutely no rights. And you are only allowed to speak when you are spoken to. Music is banned. Women are mitigated to a very, very low role. I mean, so low that in many cases, like fighting dogs, for example, people who have fighting dogs in Afghanistan are worth more than the daughter that they were going to sell for marriage. That's a fact. That happened quite often. The Taliban forbids education of women. They forbid women and even men to listen to the music they would like to listen to. They forbid, of course, dating and imagine anything else that seems so normal to our everyday lives. Women are relegated to being nothing, to living in the shadows, to living behind their culottes, walls, living behind their burqas, these jailed tents, I call them. And there are so few feminists in the United States that I've ever heard speak out against what happens to women in these nations. But I'm going to tell you what else happens. You have fragile, weak societies. You have societies that are broken. When women and children are relegated to the outskirts of society and there's no education, there's a lack of, I believe there's an economic breakdown. The GDP is broken down. But more than that, it's ideological. It's like you've taken 50% of your society or more, and you've told them that they don't matter. And, you know, mothers will do everything to protect their children, but it's very, very difficult in nations like that for a mother or even a good father to protect their child. In Afghanistan, so many times children are taken by powerful men. Some of them are relegated to being, sold for sex. Let's just be honest. And some of these young girls are forced into marriage at such a young age, 9, 10 years old. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? And what would a parent do? How would a parent defend their child against this? And because it's happened for so long, people really can't change their society unless they're willing to stand up to it and fight back. We're very blessed in America. We don't have to go through those challenges that I've seen in other parts of the world, even in parts of the world, like even in India, where it's very difficult, where women's rights, you know, are not as easy as you would imagine. It's not like the United States. You just don't have a voice. Saudi Arabia, Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait. I could throw so many different various scenarios at us. But I want you to think about what's happening right now at our border. And I want you to think about how children and women are being used and abused, and our government here is supporting that. The Biden administration is basically not holding anyone accountable, not the drug cartels, not the human traffickers, no one accountable for what is happening. In fact, they want to put money into the pockets of the drug cartels. Why? Because they are considering payouts for illegal immigrants separated from their children, asking an average for a family, listen to this, $3.4 million per family that was separated under the Trump administration. I want to tell you, under the Trump administration, a lot of the children that were put into some of the best facilities in the United States, by the way, with food, with shelter, with education, with medical facilities there for them at their disposal, are now, we're being taken away from those folks mainly because they couldn't prove that they were even their parents or guardians. They didn't know who these kids were coming in with. They didn't know what was going on. So they separated them. And a lot of these children were abused on this trek from either Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, even Mexico, wherever they were from, Bolivia, Ecuador, wherever they were from. Many of these children were abused by the people that were bringing them in, by the human traffickers. So they want to pay now $450,000 per person in compensation for those people that were separated. If you and I, like basically gave our children to MS-13 and told them to deliver those children because we couldn't, to California to visit relatives and stay with relatives, you and I would go to jail. We would be put in prison. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. I've talked to immigration and customs enforcement officers in Arizona, in Texas, in California, who have told me that they are releasing people every single second, every single day into this country. And I've talked to Border Patrol agents who are telling me that they are doing the same, that they have no control, that the Biden administration is just allowing people to flood this country. Why? Why are we doing that? And I want you to think about what I told you in the beginning. I was talking about, under Taliban rule, in countries where women are relegated to the lowest levels of society. I want you to look at that border. Beyond the men, which is mainly men we have seen in those caravans trying to come into this country, like some kind of crazy invasion, I saw that. There are a lot of women and a lot of children that are being abused. They are being taken advantage of. They are uneducated. They don't understand the circumstances that they're getting themselves into. A lot of these children are being abused by the people that are bringing them in. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. Some of them have just disappeared altogether. And because there's no documentation of them ever making the journey to begin with, they're gone forever from our memories. We don't even know who they are. There is no one that'll ever give them justice. They will never find justice. And now this administration wants to play us for the fool. Play us for the fool. I want you to listen to this. I have to play this because Jen Psaki, she is such a charlatan and she is such a liar and such a manipulator. And I want you to hear what she says when Peter Doocy asked the question about the midnight flights with all these kids showing up in different states because they are hiding them from us. And by the way, it's middle of the night flights. It's not even midnight. They want to hide it at the most remote hours so that we don't ask any questions. Listen to this.
Why is the administration flying thousands of migrants from the border to Florida and New York in the middle of the night?
Well, I'm not sure that it's in the middle of the night, but let me tell you what's happening here. It is our
4:29 a.m.
Well,
very early in the morning.
Here we are talking about early flights, earlier than you might like to take a flight. It is our legal responsibility to safely care for unaccompanied children until they can be swiftly unified with a parent or a vetted sponsor. And that's something we take seriously. We have a right obligation to do that and to deliver on that. As a part of the unification process, our Office of Refugee Resettlement facilitates travel for children in its custody to their families or sponsors across the country. So in recent weeks, unaccompanied children passed through the Westchester Airport, which I think is what you're referring to, en route to their final destination to be unified with their parents or vetted sponsor. It's no surprise that kids can be seen traveling through states, not just New York. It's something that we're also working to unite children with their family members or vetted sponsors in other parts of the country as well.
I want to tell you something. This is such bullshit. It's such a lie. I've been down to that border. I've been going down there since 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007. I don't even know. I've just been I feel like I've lived my life at that border. For the most part, our government, our administrations, and going back administrations have lied. But this is the biggest lie of all. Those children that are being brought in, if a parent or some guardian from here paid some kind of money to bring some of those kids in, to bring all those children, over 100,000 of children into this country, and they paid some smuggler to take their poor child across that border, that smuggler could molest them, could beat them, could threaten them, could harm them, and we're just going to deliver the child to the parent. We want to reunify them. I want to tell you what a big lie this is. This is such a big lie because the majority of children that come through with adults right now aren't being vetted. They're being let go. They're just trusting. Border Patrol can't do anything. They're not doing blood tests. A lot of these people don't even have IDs on them. They have nothing on them. They have nothing on them. They bring in these kids. Some of those kids have been returned and have come through the border over and over and over again, recycled as someone else's child. Think about that. Jen Psaki is expecting you to believe that they're putting these kids on these 2:30 a.m. flights, 4:30 a.m. flights, and moving them around the country because they care so much about reunifying these children. First of all, nobody wants to wake up a kid that early in the morning. Any of us who have children, I am a mother, knows that no child who gets up at 2:30 in the morning is is a good child that day. It is miserable. You want to make the child as comfortable as possible, particularly children that have been through so much trauma. So they're traumatizing these children. They're waking them up at like 1:30. Come on, let's get out. Come on, we're sneaking you. These children are constantly being abused, and our government is the abuser. Now they're putting them on planes and they're sending them all across the country. Why? Because they want to hide them from you. Because while they're infiltrating all of these people into the country, by the way, they are behind this and supporting this. They are working hand in hand, I have to believe this, with the drug cartels and the human traffickers. There is no doubt that our government is utilizing them for their own benefit. We're only paying for half of the transportation in the United States. We're allowing the poor and the uneducated and whoever wants to get in here and whoever can afford it. And by the way, it's not all that. Right now, I just got a report, and I can't believe I almost forgot about this. From some of the ICE officers that I've been talking to, they've got people there right now coming from Venezuela, Brazil. I mean, everywhere, right? Argentina, everywhere. Like literally with Louis Vuitton bags and brand new tennis shoes and great clothes and backpacks. And when they did the research to see, where they were coming from, looking them up, some of them literally were on vacation in Mazatlan, partying before they made it to the border to come into the United States. How about that? Because people are starting to realize, oh, I'm an idiot. If I'm going to apply legally, I might as well pretend I'm some, homeless person or poverty-stricken person that's making their way up there. Nobody cares. This border is going to be wide open, guys. The only thing that this government is thinking about, and the radical Dems, by the way, the radical Democrats, is about changing the voting base in the United States and, by the way, changing our country indefinitely. Indefinitely. This is about the utter destruction of our Constitution and our sovereignty. This is a changing face of America, right? And I'm not talking about just the people. My mom was an immigrant, but there has to be laws. There has to be a way to vet people. Right now, look, 26 Democrats, and I don't even need to tell you this, but I will. AOC is kind of like leading the way here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are asking federal agencies to investigate if Texas migrant arrests violate the Constitution. You guys, don't be played. This is all a setup. This is what the Democrats do best. I'm going to read this to you. Democrat members of Congress are asking the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Attorney General to investigate whether arrests of migrants violate constitutional rights. Guys, we can't do this. You would be arrested if you traffic your child in the United States with strangers, particularly people that are human traffickers or, criminals or drug dealers or gang members. You will go to jail. You will go to jail if you leave your child in a car sitting in front of Walmart, even with the windows rolled down, and you've left them there, abandoned them. They won't. There are two different set of rules here, and you have to ask why. And you got to ask your lawmakers why. This is an interesting story, and I want to wrap it up with this story because I think this is so important. Right now, I'm Hispanic on my mother's side. My mother came from Cuba. She was a Cuban immigrant. Her friends were from all over Latin America. That was why my mom, and I got to tell you, all of them backed the U.S. government. My mom wanted to be a U.S. citizen more than anything in the world. And when someone would say, oh, Zenaida, are you Cuban? She would say, no, I'm not Cuban. I'm an American. I have an American citizenship. This is my country. Listen to this. 69%, you'll find this story at saracarter.com, 69% of Hispanics disapprove of the Biden administration's handling of immigration. And this is according to a poll that released showing overwhelmingly that Hispanics disapprove of Biden's handling of immigration with only 25% approving. Respondents say Biden's handling of deportations of illegal aliens is not aggressive enough. It's not aggressive enough. Think about that. Specifically, 41% say deportations are not aggressive enough, and only 20% of Hispanics say Biden has been acting appropriately. This is a fact. I go into communities all the time and people are saying to me, put me on TV. Hispanic communities. I was in Roma, Texas, while the border was being flooded by illegal immigrants. And the woman that I spoke to who lived right on that border, whose family had lived there for several generations in that area, she's Mexican-American, Tejana. She has family in Roma, and she has family across the border in San Miguel, Aleman, which is the Mexican town right across the border from her. She said she has never been more terrified in her life, that the border is completely out of control. She told me that she had voted for Trump. But she never in her wildest dreams imagined that the Biden administration would be this lackadaisical with the border and with our national security and with her own security. So just think about that and think about what's happening here. Think about what's happening here, even in Loudoun County. We're seeing the border falling apart, and we're seeing right now here in Virginia why this election was just so important, why this election, this gubernatorial election is so important to the people of Virginia and across the country. Because what is happening here will affect us for generations to come. It's as if they have a special plan in place, right? These Democrats, to thoroughly break our nation in half. And now they came out. I think it was a slip up. Get your hands, parents, off of your kids' education. You just go to work, ignore what we're teaching your children, because guess what we're doing? We're indoctrinating them in CRT, critical race theory, which is, by the way, causing more divisions than anybody could ever imagine. We're indoctrinating your kids in what we believe, not what you believe. And one day they're going to grow up and they're not going to listen to you anymore because the state will be the parent. And if you think I'm joking, I'm not. I'm dead serious about this. It is that scary. That is what communist countries have done all the time. The Soviets figured that out. It's a form of indoctrination. It doesn't mean you have to be indoctrinating them in anything particular. It could be anything you want. Look at what is happening in our country and just look at the teachers that are teaching your children. You should be directly involved in your child's education. We should know everything that is happening at that school, whatever school your child's going to. We're taxpayers, and we deserve that right. You guys, born from the tragedy of 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been honoring America's heroes ever since. This year, the foundation is bringing 200 mortgage-free homes to Gold Star and fallen first responder families with young children. That's so important. And to our nation's most catastrophically injured veterans and first responders. Frank Siller connected where America was attacked on foot, from the Pentagon to Shanksville to downtown Manhattan, where he actually retraced his brother's footsteps on 9/11. Thanks to your support, Towers of Light returned to the Pentagon and Shanksville memorials again this year. For the first time, our country recognized the people we lost to 9/11 related illness through the foundation's ceremony. And another first is planned for Veterans Day. Those lost in the war on terror are having their names read aloud. Honor our vow to never forget. Donate $11 a month to t2t.org. That's T2T.org. I want to get back to talking about what is happening in Virginia and why parents all across the country are paying attention. Because it's not just Virginia-centric, right? This isn't just about the state of Virginia. It's about the state of our nation. And it's about the state of our nation's children and what is happening across our country. And it's become more and more obvious, I believe, to parents. It's like waking up a sleeping giant, right? So as I'm traveling and I'm interviewing people here in Virginia, parents are telling me, they never thought that it was actually that bad. Some parents woke up when they kept their children at home. So during COVID, when it was the lockdown and children were at home doing their homework assignments, they were looking at their homework assignments and saying to themselves, like, what is this? What are you actually teaching my children? I couldn't believe a gal that works with me here at SaraCarter.com. She was living in California. Her parents have moved since to Texas. In California, her younger sister is in a school district in California, and I'm only going to go that far because I don't know how much of this she wants me to talk about publicly, but they were handing out, her sister's 10 years old, and they were handing out these assignment sheets. And it was about sex and gender, and it was these illustrations. She sent me a picture of it. Now my daughter is in a small private Catholic school at the time, and I would have never seen this in her school. I'm guaranteeing you that. But I'm going to tell you just a little bit. I'm not going to get into how graphic it was. But they were showing what was supposedly illustrations of normal, and maybe some of you have already seen this, normal, what they considered normal sex acts or discovery of your own body. And in these illustrations, there were two women on top of each other, two men having sex in a bed, a man and a woman, very graphic pictures of masturbation and things like that. I mean, I don't even want to talk about it because it's so bizarre that teachers would be passing out this type of pornography in the school, because that's what it is. I mean, I never had to have anyone give me an assignment sheet like that for me to figure out life and the birds and the bees and everything else. I mean, they act like like our parents aren't capable of teaching us, or we're not capable of learning things ourselves. But this goes far beyond birds and the bees and just the matter-of-fact science, which I do believe in teaching students. This is indoctrinating your children to believe a certain way, right? And a child at 10 years old is already confused enough. Children are just children, and they should be allowed to be children, by the way. They don't need to be indoctrinated in this crap. My daughter is still playing Barbies with her friends and, having fun and going to soccer. And, there's enough time to be dealing with sex and all of this other stuff later. I know I might sound a little old-fashioned. I do believe in openly talking with your children if they have questions, and I believe that's up to the parent. But I do believe in having those conversations with your kids. But for crying out loud, let them be children. And those assignment sheets went far beyond anything that was necessary. It was actually really, really disgusting. And right now, parents are standing up and saying, well, wait a minute. I don't want my child learning about this, CRT junk that isn't even, by the way, something that I agreed to when they started school here. And you want to talk about school choice, right? And parental school choice. It was really interesting because when I was at the event for McAuliffe, I was asking some young people, and I talked about this before on my podcast, I was asking them what they thought about what McAuliffe said and if they disagreed or agreed. And of course, they're McAuliffe supporters. But one of the kids actually said, well, the parents can always send them to like a private school. They don't need to go to a public school. I was like, well, wait a minute. First of all, you're talking about taxpayer dollars. So we do have every right to question what is being taught in public schools. And secondly, no, we don't. There is no real parents' school choice right now. Parents should have the right to take their taxpayer dollars and then put it towards a school that they believe will best educate their child. I absolutely believe that. But this government doesn't want that. You want to know why they don't want that? It's the same reason they tried to terrify parents about being domestic terrorists if they stood up to the school board. It's the same reason they're expanding the IRS to the point where, my God, every dollar that you spend is going to be investigated. I mean, $600, this is crazy. Where the government is going to have the right to be so intrusive into your life. They want you to be afraid. They don't want you to speak up. They being this bureaucracy, this machine that's so out of control right now. It's operating on its own. It's like some kind of monster that we've created. I don't even know where this is going, right? These people in Washington, D.C., these people in the swamp do not want to give up their power. And that's what Loudoun County is all about. It's about all of us. It's about the American people saying, look, our nation was established so that the people of this nation would be in charge, not them, not that wild bureaucracy. And we were asleep. Some of this is our fault, guys. Some of this is our fault. Our children were being indoctrinated. We were being indoctrinated. People weren't standing up. They weren't saying, well, wait a minute. I don't mind talking about different ideas and putting those out there and expressing my own, but don't indoctrinate me. We didn't do that. We let these teachers kind of, oh, they're a teacher. They're so lefty. Oh, whatever. No, they're teaching your children. Your kids are in school for 8 hours plus a day. That's more time with them than they spend with you. The school is a perfect place to indoctrinate a child. I said at the top of the show, they did it in Cuba. They used to have the kids, and they still do, but I remember a friend of mine talking about like what happened in Cuba before they came and how they would indoctrinate her as a child. They would, repeat over and over again that Fidel was the leader, that Fidel was really the father, that Fidel was the father of Cuba. And that even if your family went against Fidel, always remember that Fidel Castro is the one that you report to, is the one that is in charge, is your father, is the father of your homeland, and that you need to report on your family. Does that sound familiar to you? They're asking you to report extremists. What do they mean by that? The government, the FBI, what do they mean by that? These are the people that we have given basically the authority to. We have given the authority to carry a weapon, to protect our nation from outside forces, to protect our children and our families from criminal elements. And now they're saying that some of us are the criminal elements because what? We disagree with the way they are handling things? That's why? We need to really think about what is happening here in our nation. And we need to get out there and vote. Every single one of us, whenever there is an election, that is the way to win back our country. And by the way, to speak out. Just speak out. Don't be afraid. Don't be the silent majority anymore, folks. Don't do it. I mean, you and I, we have that power. We can go to our school board meetings. We can talk to people in our communities. We go to church. We need to do that. We need to speak out. We need to do that before it's too late. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There's a lot of us out there. There are more of us than there are of them. They're just beating a louder drum. We have to stand up to this before we lose our nation. Guys, attention. The price of silver has increased 340% since 2000, and it continues trending higher. Universal Coin and Bullion is offering our listeners a special locked-in price of just $30 for a beautiful 1-ounce 2021 American Silver Eagle coin, the most popular coin in the world for collectors and investors. It's pretty awesome. This limited offer is available at dealer's cost because Universal Coin wants you to own your first newly designed silver bullion coin since President Reagan signed the Gold Bullion Act in 1985. Call Universal Coin like I did, leaders in the precious metals industry, at 800 UCB Gold to get your beautiful U.S. mint silver coin for only $30. Postage is free and you'll be dealing with experts. In fact, the company's president, Dr. Mike Fulgens, is recognized as America's gold expert, and he is the 2021 Coin Dealer of the Year. They also have rare gold coins, but this special silver deal is only available by using the code SARA. That's S-A-R-A. Call 1-800-UCB-GOLD. That's 1-800-UCB-GOLD. Use the code SARA, S-A-R-A. Okay, guys, I know this is going to come as a shock to you, but the Democrats want $2.5 billion for tree equity. I mean, this is that important right now. $2.5 billion. Steve Scalise, he put it out there. He wants you to know that the Dems have completely lost their minds. And they want it for tree equity. And I got to read this to you because Greg is awesome at finding stories. And Greg pulled this story up. And it's, should trees have legal rights? Should trees have legal rights? Some on the left think so. Some on the left think so. This is from an article in the New Republic. I want you to listen to this because it's completely insane. And by the way, birch trees are racist. We're just throwing that out there. Right now, tree wars in the U.S. are between humans. The rights of natural features have no real legal standing. People go to court because a river is polluted and has basically compromised people's drinking water, not simply because the river itself had a right to be whole and healthy. As a result, court settlements over environmental issues involve payments to humans. But in Stone's conservatorship model, if a tree or a river were wronged, it would be able to sue through its legal representative. And any money awarded would be placed in a trust to make the natural feature whole again. Okay, guys, get ready. Get ready. Start representing. That's it. You know what, Greg? I am going to adopt a mountain. I'm going to adopt the Rio Grande because the migrants that are crossing have polluted that river to such an extent and no one wants to pick up the shit. Nobody there wants to pick up anything. So I'm going to adopt the Rio Grande to stop illegal migration because it is destroying the environment. How about them apples, Biden administration? Why don't we allocate $2.5 billion to restoring the Rio Grande to the way that it normally was? Let's give it some equity. Thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. It's been so great talking with you, being a part of your lives, and thank you for being a part of mine. Remember, it's here where we get the story back. Again, folks, go to saracarter.com. That's saracarter.com. You'll get all the links to all my social media, as well as this amazing podcast with great producers here at Radio America. And leave me your reviews. I'll be reading them and give me some ideas for stories. I'd love to hear your ideas. That would be great. Again, thank you for being a part of this show. And thank you so much for being a part of my life. God bless you. God bless this great nation. And God bless the great state of Texas. Frank Ziller, I am so happy to actually meet you. Tunnel to Towers is a foundation that I am so proud being a sponsor for the Sara Carter Show. So thank you so much. You know, when I read the spots, I'm looking at the stories of how the foundation started. I'm so moved. What was it that made you realize, we've got to do something. We've got to give something back?
Well, my brother 20 years ago on September 11, 2001, when he gave his life up while saving others, New York City firefighter that runs through a tunnel, the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, with 60 pounds of gear on his back, gets through that tunnel, goes up West Street into that South Tower and goes up those stairs. And along with 343 firefighters, 60 police officers, and so many others, he gives up his life. We needed to make sure that sacrifice and that story was not forgotten. So that's why we decided to do the foundation. He was the youngest of 7. We raised him. My parents died by the time he was 10 years old. So he has an unbelievable story of how he recovered from his own losses. And he realized that every day in life was precious. And he lived it that way. So he died the way he lived, serving others. T2T.org. That's T2T.org. It's only $11 a month. It's up to every single one of us to do our part to help those that were willing to give everything to protect us and our families.